And welcome to the Outsiders MMA Show. I am Josh Gross, joining Jeff Sherwood as always. Jeff's out there up in Central California. Lots of fires, lots of things to be concerned about. Jeff, I'm pretty sure 2020 is the worst year of all time. Do you agree with that?
I just saw the joke today, and I thought it was pretty clever and funny. It said, 2020 is not a good year.
No.
Because you heard all the good year stuff today. And all that, right?
Oh, wow. That was good. That went over my head. That was good.
I didn't think of it. I just saw it. So, that's
there's so many things you could sort of point to and just say, what the hell is happening? But I know those fires are bad where you are and all over California, Central California on the coast. I haven't quite reached me yet down in Southern California, but I have no doubt the fire season's going to be bad. The distraction of fights, it is kind of nice. The distraction of sports, I can't lie. It sometimes feels like a guilty pleasure. Feels like we really shouldn't allow ourselves to indulge. Maybe it's my personal take on this, but here we are. What, you're shaking your head? You're with me too?
No, we should indulge in everything that we possibly can. I mean, this is a time to do it.
Yeah.
It can't get any worse.
No.
Just drugs, hookers, everything.
Oh, well, all right.
Just indulge in everything.
That's the Jeff Sherwood way. I'm not necessarily signing off on that, but you take that for whatever it's worth. Certainly indulge in this show if you would do us a favor. Subscribe, hit the button, hit the notification button. You'll know when we go live. We did a wrap-up show, Jeff, of UFC 252. If people want reaction to that, they can go on the YouTube page and check it out. So limited 252 reaction, but there is some fallout to it. I think first and foremost, this news about Jon Jones. Jon Jones, we speculated on Saturday maybe he'd be the guy to go up and fight Stipe Miocic. Now we'll see if he's the guy or not, but he's certainly now serious, making it known his intention of going to heavyweight. He's relinquished that light heavyweight title. This is a big deal. Does this feel like a permanent move to you or kind of a one-off? I don't know why he would give up the belt if he didn't plan on staying there for a while. What says Jeff Sherwood?
Well, did he really give up the belt? I mean, what is? Yeah, I mean,
he did.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Two other guys are fighting for the belt in September. He gave it up.
I think it's kind of a thing that Jon Jones likes attention. That's obvious. But I think it's a perfect match. I mean, I want to see him go up to heavyweight. I think there's a lot of fights up there that I'm really interested in seeing Jon Jones, fight. And, that was one of the first things that came to my mind when I saw Stipe was kind of smaller and everything. I was like, damn, Jon Jones is like the same size as Stipe. What a great fight.
That's what I'm saying. That's why he doesn't need time to bulk up. He's ready now. He's been putting on weight. He's ready to fight a heavyweight now.
Yeah.
So you go a few different ways, right? If you're the UFC, you got options. Do you do Stipe against Francis Ngannou? You do Stipe against Jon Jones? To me, the obvious thing is Stipe against Jon Jones. So
I do that immediately.
Immediately. There's like not even a conversation about it. You don't even entertain Ngannou because he's the guy who upsets everything. The UFC has within their grasp a fight between the best heavyweight ever to fight in the UFC against the best light heavyweight ever to fight in the UFC. And that light heavyweight might be the best fighter ever in the history of the UFC. Questions about things going on with Jon Jones, but there's obviously a real case to make. That's not a fight that comes across very often. It's not a fight that you can sort of manufacture. This is right time, right place. If the UFC doesn't pull this off, I think this goes to the top of the list of the fights we didn't see. We didn't see GSP Anderson Silva. We didn't see, obviously, Fedor against Couture or Lesnar. We didn't see a bunch of fights, even though that we get this narrative that we see all the great fights. This would be the number one fight that we don't see if the UFC doesn't make it, and it would be really stupid. You agree?
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And, I mean, this is right up the UFC's alley. I mean, they go for the money grab. This is the money fight.
But it's not even a money grab. Like, it's a totally justifiable competitive.
Oh, it is. It
is. On every level, this fight makes sense.
I agree. I agree. And the UFC, they like to do moves like this. I mean, it's not like they're going to balk at something like this. Like, oh, that's not right. I mean, come on.
I mean, they might. They might. Dana White is saying no. Francis Ngannou gets next title shot against Stipe Miocic, and Jon Jones doesn't have to fight anybody else, but then he can get next. Dana White is saying this on SportsCenter. So
that probably means it's signed.
I hope so. I hope so, because I think it'd be really stupid promotional work to say no. We can sit on this Jones Miocic fight. We'll put Miocic again with Francis again, and risk it all. That makes no sense to me. Can't do that.
Yeah, this is the fight. I mean, with you're looking for big fights, right? This is a big fight with no Conor McGregor in the UFC right now. I think this is the biggest fight you could possibly make right now.
It's right there, and it does nothing to diminish Ngannou. Like,
no,
he actually benefits by fighting the winner of this fight.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not like I don't think. I mean, I'm wondering if this fight happens, if he'll want to fight somebody else. That's the only thing I'm wondering about. If Francis will be like, well, screw that. I'm gonna book another fight. I'm gonna fight somebody else. I would rather he waited and just waited for the winner of this. But we'll see what happens. It's that's the things we've learned, right? When Dana says it's not happening, that means it's happening.
Well, it's iffy. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Reputations are hard to shake. I do think there's far too great a risk of throwing Ngannou in there. I mean, sure, people want to see Francis fight Stipe again. Great. Awesome fight. He deserves it. A lot of people want to see Jon Jones fight Ngannou. When that talk was happening a few months ago, people were losing their minds.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't get like heavyweight great, light heavyweight great. Like these scenarios don't come across. They don't happen. You got to make the fight. You got to make the fight. Jon Jones, obviously extremely talented. I think he's got the frame for heavyweight. He is going to be quick. I think he'll be powerful enough. I mean, people talk about skinny legs. He doesn't have skinny hips and he doesn't have skinny thighs.
Mm-hmm.
Jon Jones is a big guy. What do you make? Does he beat Stipe? You make him a favorite?
That's weird. I saw early odds between Stipe and Francis.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anybody jump on any odds between Jones and Stipe.
Yeah. Let's see.
I think, I think I go Jones. But as the fight gets closer and closer, I might change my mind. But at this moment right now, I say Jon Jones.
So I know I haven't changed the camera angle because I'm looking at something else, Jeff, but we'll hone in on your face as we get the reaction here.
Beautiful one of this.
Beautiful. This is what makes the podcast worth it.
Like my MTV Music Television shirt.
So according to Bet Online, they're nice enough to send me these odds. Stipe Miocic against Francis Ngannou. Stipe Miocic plus 175. Francis Ngannou minus 205. And Jeff, you're not allowed to bet on any of these. I'm just saying before. Stipe Miocic versus Jon Jones. Miocic plus 130. Jones minus 150. So Ngannou a bigger favorite than Jones over Miocic, but Stipe is the underdog to both of them. You buy it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about Stipe not getting the proper respect. So, and then I turn around and don't give him the respect either. I pick Jones, but I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. And maybe that puts a chip on his shoulder a little bit if both these guys are coming in and he's not the favorite. He's the underdog. So that could be a good thing too. But I'm wondering about Jon Jones' power because, like you said, he should have enough power. But I mean, does Jon Jones have the power to knock out Stipe? I don't know.
I mean,
I don't think so.
Not a lot of people do. I mean, Cormier did it to him. Anybody gets hit in the button, they can go out. With Jones, it's always hit and move, mix things up. He's not a one-hitter quitter kind of guy.
Right.
He'll kick you upside the head and do it, but, it's a lot of lead up to that. He really picks people apart. I think with Jones, it's about tactics and speed and mixing up the game. If you're Jones and you have the option, I mean, say they both have a title. Would you? I mean, Ngannou is a harder fight, isn't it, for Jones? Like, it just seems like the tougher fight for Jones. Scarier. Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't know about harder.
Yeah.
It actually might be easier.
You think so? Okay.
Because I think Stipe moves better than Francis.
He does, but considering that Jones moving up from 205 will move very well, he'll be faster than both of them. Oh, man.
He'll be a lot faster than Francis. But Francis does have – I mean, not that Stipe doesn't have power, but Francis has scary power.
Yeah.
Like, he hits you one time anywhere, above the neck, and it's usually lights out. So
this is wrestling dependent, I think, Jones will definitely have to – rely on his wrestling and mix things up. I think it's intriguing. A lot of us have talked about Jon Jones, the heavyweight, for a while. For him to do it at this particular moment, I think opens the door to some great possibilities. But, I know Dana's watching right now, and Dana, just make that Miocic fight. Just do it.
Hey, Uncle Dana.
Just do it. Because that's you don't get these kinds of fights too often.
Right.
Jones will use his length to his advantage. Sure, Jones uses his length. At heavyweight, it's less pronounced. Mm-hmm. It'll be speed more than length for Jones, right. I think, to be a big deal. So that's I think that's one of the major news stories of the week. I think clearly it is. And because Jones is leaving 205, the UFC's already moving forward with the division. Dominic Reyes, who a lot of us thought beat Jones last year, will now get Jan Blachowicz. It is not an interim title fight. It is the title fight in the UFC. Good for Reyes to get back in that mix and get a title shot. Nice for Jan Blachowicz to do that, coming off a 3-fight win streak, just knocked out Corey Anderson. The fight makes sense for a title, a lot less, I think, dramatic and a lot less intriguing without Jones or Cormier in the mix. This is the first time in 9 years we're talking about a UFC title fight without one of those guys. So,
right.
Is this Reyes' fight to win? Does he walk away?
I think so.
Yeah. Does he need to win? Because, Jan has won some, lost some, right? Corey Anderson, who just went to Bellator, he got knocked out by Jan, but he also won a decision over Jan. So there's some kind of uncertainty around him, perhaps as champion. But Reyes wins. I think people will say, look, he beat Jones the first time anyways. Now he puts a stamp on the division. Kind of gives UFC that leg up, right?
Yeah.
Because I think
there's no world beater.
Yeah, there's a discussion to have, Jeff, about, with Jones out of the picture, for the first time in a long time, I think since 2006, we could be talking about a scenario where the best light heavyweight in the world is not in the UFC. And I think it's a harder argument to make if Reyes holds that title. You agree?
Well, that would be interesting. I mean, a fight between Reyes and Bader would be interesting. I don't think you would. I mean, depending on how, I don't think it really even matters how the Reyes-Jan fight goes. I bet you would get a lot of people to pick Ryan Bader to win that fight against Reyes.
It's possible.
I might be one of them.
Well, it's certainly possible. We'll talk about Ryan Bader's title fight. He's got one coming up on Friday in Mohegan Sun, and it's an important one. I mean, Vadim Nemkov's a good fighter, and he's a guy that could beat Ryan Bader. He's got the physical gifts to do it. Doesn't quite have the experience. We'll talk more about that fight towards the end of the show. But I think in a larger picture here, the light heavyweight division without Jon Jones suddenly feels like this wide open group. that you could sort of pick a name out of a hat on any given day, and that fighter might be the guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of fun and intriguing, right? Because we've been so used to this dominant figure in this weight class. All of a sudden, it feels like any single direction you're talking about a fighter who could beat the champion on that night. And we haven't had that in a long time.
Right. New life. It's like breathing new life into the division, which is good. Change is always good. So, and this is change. And I think it's changed the heavyweight division and changed the light heavyweight division, which is great. I mean, we like to see new stuff. Like you said, so for so long, it's just been Jones in the light heavyweight division. And we basically said, who's he going to fight? And so here we go. He goes to heavyweight. There's great fights there for him. And then now you have Reyes, and this is Reyes' shot. So we'll see how he does it.
It's a shot for Reyes, for Jan Blachowicz, for a lot of UFC light heavyweights. And certainly I think if you're Bellator, you're feeling pretty good about being in the conversation of, hey, we have a weight division that's comparable to a UFC weight class. We also have the top of the weight division, maybe right there, better, perhaps. I mean, you know that Ryan Bader would be competitive in the UFC. And you know that Corey Anderson is competitive inside the UFC. And you know that Phil Davis is competitive inside the UFC. I believe Nemkov is a talented enough fighter to be competitive inside the UFC. They also have young kids coming up. I've referenced Christian Edwards a few times. I think really highly of him. And there's a few others as well. So, this weight class inside the UFC without Jones, I think suddenly becomes kind of like throw a dart and, who's the man on that day. And that creates a discussion. I think it's a good discussion for the sport. We won't see cross promotion. We won't see anything like that. But this kind of dynamic where perhaps there's these top tier fighters outside the UFC does something to this baked in notion that the only thing you really have to watch is the UFC. And I think that's unfair to a high class of fighter. A lot of fighters in this Bellator light heavyweight class and in some other divisions as well, I think speak to that.
Well, Ryan Bader's been that guy. When they brought Ryan Bader over, Ryan Bader's a very good fighter. It doesn't matter where he's fighting. He's comparable to any light heavyweight fighter in the world. You put him in there against any other light heavyweight, and he's going to compete and win more than lose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely.
Last thing before we move on here, 2 comments in a row. Yes, thank you for the comments. Throw them up. I'll get to them as I can. Some of them are terrible. Some of them are good.
I like the nice shirt one.
Oh yeah, well, I was gonna wait to the end. Throw that one up. So did Jones wait for DC to retire, move up, or is it just this guy? I don't think that Jon Jones really cares about DC one way or another.
Nah, he whatever Jon Jones does, it's for himself. I think he's made that pretty apparent.
Very, very apparent. Jon Jones cares about Jon Jones. So there are fights this weekend. The UFC card on Saturday, a Bellator card on Friday. The Bellator card is headlined by Ryan Bader against Vadim Nemkov, a 205-pound title fight. I think it's a good fight quality. The rest of the card, some good action fights as usual. But the timing of all this, I think, really adds some spice to the contest. I don't know if you've seen much of Vadim Nemkov. Athletic guy, Fedor protege, strong, good striker. I think the experience is a little bit in his disfavor, especially compared to Ryan Bader. Both look great on the scale as we're taping this on Thursday. So this is a good fight, but I think you have to favor Bader. You have to pick Bader in this fight. But it shouldn't shock anybody if Nemkov pulls it off. It wouldn't be because Ryan Bader lost a step. It wouldn't be because Ryan Bader is not very good. It would be because Vadim Nemkov is a quality fighter, and that's how people should see it.
Yeah, and I mean, experience is a big thing in this sport. I mean, obviously you have young phenoms come around every so often, and not that Nemkov isn't, but when you're going against a fighter like Ryan Bader that's pretty much seen everything in his career, it's really, really tough to and still I think is in his prime. It's really tough to pick against somebody like that. I mean, and maybe this is just selfish of me, but I've been saying for a while I wish Ryan Bader was still in the UFC. But there are good matchups in Bellator, but a lot of really good matchups in the UFC as well. I think Bader comes out on top on this one.
Yeah, I think he wrestles Nemkov, grounds and pounds him. Nemkov got really fatigued in the last fight. So to me, unless Bader, suffers from being up at heavyweight, fighting heavier, and then coming back down in weight, and I don't think he's going to suffer too much from that. I think he wins. I think he finds a way to pull it off. And I agree, there's fights for him in the heavyweight division, light heavyweight division, and heavyweight division. Quite honestly, I mean, this is a guy who's now established himself at heavyweight. He walked away as a free agent, and it was sort of one of the first kind of times where Bellator was able to pull a ranked fighter over from the UFC. They've now done it with Phil Davis and Corey Anderson.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference in terms of perception here. So if Bader wins, you got to figure probably Corey Anderson is next, although Davis is fighting the winner of Machida, and Machida knocked out Bader. Machida somehow finds a way to win that fight. That's a fight that may make sense for Bellator to pull off. So some options there as we look forward to Friday. Is there anything else on this card, Jeff, that jumped out to you?
No, you made a good point about, Bellator actually getting guys like Bader, Corey Anderson, Phil Davis. I love signings like that. Some of their signings, when you sign a guy coming out of the UFC that's coming off 3 losses or whatever, right. I don't get excited for that. But when they sign quality guys like that, I get excited about that. And that creates, better matchups in Bellator, up and down the line. So I'm happy for that. As far as, the rest of the card, I think it's really main event heavy. Julia Budd fighting again. I always enjoy watching her fight. And we'll see her. But other than that, I'm not too familiar with a lot of the undercard people. So there's a lot of 4-0, 5-0.
Valentin Moldavsky's fighting Roy Nelson, and that's a good fight for Moldavsky. He's a guy that I think at heavyweight could sort of announce his presence there with a win over Roy Nelson. I think one of the people in the chat said that Roy's plus 550. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but Roy Nelson, I mean, he shouldn't win that fight. He just shouldn't. Not at this stage. So, we'll see. Otherwise, Bellator, I think, is trying to court audiences, trying to, get some of that oxygen for themselves. Never a weekend by itself. The UFC is promoting constantly. And the UFC is returning on Saturday, headlined by Frankie Edgar's debut at 135, taking on Pedro Munoz. What do we make of Frankie Edgar at this stage, Jeff? I mean, the idea of him being 38, going down to 135 pounds, he's just stopped by the Korean Zombie. Pretty bad, actually. That Brian Ortega loss was also rough. Frankie seems like a guy who's never going to go away.
No.
He's going to fight. He's going to fight forever.
Yeah, he's going to fight forever. And Pedro Munoz is a young stud. I mean, I think this could be an ugly fight too. And if Pedro comes out on top, well, a lot of people are really going to start questioning Frankie. What is he doing? But like you said, I don't think he's going to quit fighting. I mean, it's in his blood.
Yeah. Munoz is very dangerous with his hands. Knocked out Cody Garbrandt. Pretty vicious knockout there. That was a crazy fight. He's coming off a decision loss to Aljamain Sterling. No shame in that.
No.
Aljamain's a tremendous fighter. So I think Munoz is got to be the guy you pick here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Munoz wins this fight. But Frankie's always game. We'll see. You never know. But I think Frankie's. He's been in there a lot of times. He's been in there a lot of wars. And you talk about his his recent losses have kind of been tough.
Yeah. The rest of the card, light heavyweight match between Ovince St. Preux and Alonzo Menifeld. Menifield's a guy I'm high on, coming off a loss, his first loss of his career, I believe that's right. Let me look.
Yes.
Yeah. It's Devin Clark. Kind of surprising that it went that way. So interesting to see him rebound against a pretty big light heavyweight. Menifield's not a big guy. I mean, he's stacked, but he's not tall like Sam Prue. What else is on here? This is, I would say, not a very deep card for the UFC. You're always going to get good fights. You're always going to get quality matchups, but not the deepest overall. Yeah. Right.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, I'm sure, there might be a couple prospects sprinkled in and out through here, but even St. Preux, we never know. He's like the guy you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes he looks amazing. Other times you're just shaking your head like, man, is this the same guy?
Up and down, up and down. He's gotten a lot better over the course of his career, I think, and he's unique. He's sort of weird athleticism and submissions from odd angles. And, he's worked on his striking. He's turned into a pretty competent mixed martial artist. I mean, I remember him coming up and you wondered because he just seems so awkward, but he's turned into a good fighter. Moving on to something that I think probably should have led with, Jeff. Justin Gaethje's bike was stolen. and first of all, I don't know if you saw this bike. It's like a $4,000 bike.
I did, yeah.
It's insane. There's Rambo down the side of it. I don't know what that's about. But some dude with a death wish went and stole Justin Gaethje's bike. And I got to say, this resonates with me because when I was in the 8th grade, I had my bike stolen. And I've never gotten over it. Actually, I think I know who did it. The guy he became like a rabbi later in life. Like, no bullshit. He wasn't a rabbi when he was like a wannabe gangster at the time. So, that's the way it kind of goes.
People change, Josh.
People change. They atone. They move on with their lives. They grow, right? But this guy needs to be found and locked in a cage with Justin Gaethje. And I would spend a lot of money to watch that.
That guy's just lucky that Justin didn't catch him. In the act.
We're all lucky that Justin didn't catch him.
True.
Because we don't need that Khabib fight to be ruined.
Right.
Justin's kind of zen in some ways, but I do not think that he would have been able to hold himself. And quite honestly, like, thievery is at the top of the list of like things that you deserve something bad for just stealing some random bike. That and like spitting on somebody, like, you just
that's the worst.
That's you deserve whatever's coming to you if you do that. So some jackass stole Justin Gaethje's bike, and I hope he gets it back. It's a nice bike. You can obviously afford another one, but it shouldn't go down like that. We need justice for Justin Gaethje.
And he's got the picture of the guy, right? I mean, he's got a pretty good couple shots of him walking by. So that's kind of scary. That guy should obviously he's not an MMA fan. Or if he is, maybe the bike's just going to show up on Justin Gaethje's doorstep tonight.
Just return it. Just
have somebody else return it.
Yes. Yeah. I would say send it back. If you can't send it back through like the post office or anything, you're lost forever. So
it is horrible getting your bike stolen. It's happened to me like 3 times.
Really?
Yeah. And that's traumatic.
I still I remember the feelings. Like, I remember exactly where it was. I was at a buddy's house and kind of put it in the back. I didn't lock it.
I had the worst story. This has nothing to do with MMA, but so we used to have a BMX track where I grew up down the street, and my uncle had a really nice BMX bike, and he like never let anyone use it. And I asked him. I said, I used to ask him all the time, and I asked him on this day, and finally he said, "Go ahead, take it down to the track. You could use it, but don't let anybody else use it." I won't. So I get down there. I'm on the track. I'm using this bike. It's awesome. And then some guy comes and says, "Hey, can I try that one time?" I'm like, "Sure." So I let him get on it. He goes around the track a couple times. His 3rd time around the track, he got by the gate and just took off out the gate. And I was just standing there watching, seeing my life flash before my eyes as I go home and tell my uncle that his bike got stolen.
Why were you such a bad kid?
That's not bad. I was nice.
Your uncle gave you clear instructions and you immediately said, sure. Like, you didn't even think about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't see bad in people. Well, at least I didn't when I was a kid. Now I see a lot of bad in people. But and to make the story worse, like it turned into a huge thing. So I tell my uncle, so he starts walking up and down the alleyways, and we go past this one garage, and his bike's hanging, and this dude's painting it. He had already taken it apart and was painting it. And my uncle went in there and took the bike, beat the guy up, and then we went home.
This was like an adult that stole the bike?
No, he was like my uncle was only like 18, 19, and that's like the other guy was the same age.
And how old were you?
Like 9.
Oh, wow.
So we're walking back from this guy's garage, and I'm carrying the 2 tires, and my uncle's carrying the frame, and then all of a sudden, like, cops pull up on us and tell my uncle to get down on the ground, and saying that he beat up some guy and stole his bike and everything. And then my mom came out, and my mom started yelling at the cop, and oh my gosh, it was a nightmare.
Jeez.
Yeah, but it all got worked out in the end.
Yeah.
So, and he got his bike back, so I got to be here with you.
The bike is never the same. It got painted, and it's like never going to be the same.
Right, I know. He's to this day, he still brings that up once in a while.
As he should. You screwed up real bad, man.
I did. I never let anyone ride anyone else's bike again. That's for sure.
Getting your bike stolen as a kid is traumatic. I still feel it. I mean, I'm like having that like PTSD about it.
One more quick story about the other bike that got stolen. So there was this guy selling this cruiser that was super nice. I mean, it had alloy rims. It had chrome fenders. Like, it was a nice cruiser. And he was selling it. He needed to sell it. And so my parents decided they were going to get me that for Christmas. And this was a few months before Christmas. So they gave it to me early because they couldn't really hide a cruiser for a couple months from me. So they gave it to me, and I got it stolen before Christmas. I went to the liquor store and was with my cousin. We were playing video games, and I said, okay, I'm going to play a video game. Watch the bike. And he's like, okay. So then he plays video games. He's like, okay, it's my turn. And then I look outside, and my bike's gone. We go outside, and crazy as this story seems, we go outside. Just at that time, my cousin comes walking up. My cousin had a truck. He parked. I saw his truck parked over there, so I was like, good one. I figured that he saw my bike there, and he wanted to teach me a lesson. So he grabbed my bike and laid it down in the back of his truck. I was like, good one. And I felt relief for a second. And then I walked over to his truck, and it wasn't in the back of his truck. I was like, where's my bike? He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, where's my bike? I know you're hiding it. He's like, I'm not hiding it. So I went from being down in the dumps to being relieved to being back down in the dumps. And my parents were so good. My parents were so good to me, even though we never think they are when we're a kid. Like I said, they gave it to me a couple months early. They got me another new bike for Christmas. So I got 2 cruisers for one Christmas. So there you go.
Hari Rivera says one of his best friends was sentenced to 7 years for beating up a friend that stole his bike. He ended up doing 3 years plus parole. He should have gotten life in prison, your friend.
These days, he wouldn't even have got a ticket. They'd just be like,
I got golf clubs stolen once. I was at a golf course, and I went into the cafe, and everybody puts their clubs like in the little area right as you walk in. And I always since the bike experience, I've always had this thing where I got to see my stuff. And so I was paying attention to the clubs. I knew they were in my eye line. But, man, someone swiped them. I don't know what happened. I was fucking pissed.
Are you sure that they were stealing them, or they just thought maybe they were theirs? Because I'm pretty sure, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure if everyone's clubs are out at a country club, somebody there has a lot better clubs.
I wasn't at a country club. This was like a municipal course in LA. This is no country club.
Well, somebody has nicer clubs than you out of those people. If there's 10 sets of clubs there, I'm thinking there's at least 1 or 2 better sets than yours. No?
You know what bag is yours. You know when you pick up a bag that's yours. This is stupid, Jeff. Why are you defending the person who stole my golf clubs? This is
Well,
ridiculous.
like I said, I see good in people. I try to.
No, not in the wrong people. In the wrong people.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, that made me angry. I mean, that's crazy. But don't steal golf clubs or bikes or someone's
Don't you
car.
shoot left-handed?
No, I shoot right-handed.
Oh, for some reason I was thinking you were left.
I am a left-hander, but I play right-handed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew you were left-handed, and
Yeah.
I know we've golfed a couple times, but I couldn't remember if you were from the left or the right.
There's lots of good in Dana White, and Jeff definitely saw the good in Dana White. There's no question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Look, man. I hope that guy that took Justin's bike gets what's coming to him, and never, ever, ever say yes when someone asks if they can borrow your bike, Jeff. You've just a lesson learned.
Well, if anybody asks if they could borrow my truck now to take it for a ride, the answer is definitely no. So I think I learned my lesson.
You let me drive it, though.
Sure, I would.
Sure.
I don't think you'd steal it, but then I'd just steal your car. So
yeah, fair enough. That's it for this week. If you want more on UFC 252, go back to Saturday's show. We did a recap live that night. Thanks to all of you who tuned in. Thanks to everybody who tuned in today. And we'll be back with a recap of the fights this weekend. Look forward to, as always, more mixed martial arts. And hopefully, Jeff, nothing else gets stolen that we have to discuss.
Absolutely.
No other crazy shit in the world, although, of course, there will be. Stay safe, Jeff. Breathe easy, my friend.
Take care.
All right, take care. Take care, everybody. Bye.